Welcome to the EmpowerHer Wellness podcast. I'm Morgan, and I'm thrilled to be your host and wellness coach as we navigate the path to a healthier, more confident you. As the owner of Get Fit With Me, I bring years of experience in personal training, nutrition, and coaching to each episode. Join me as we explore practical tips and strategies for fitness, nutrition, mindset, and more, all tailored for busy women just like you. Let's empower your wellness journey and achieve lasting transformation together. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to an episode of the EmpowerHer Wellness podcast. I'm your host and coach, Morgan Ekovich, and today we're going to be covering a topic that, honestly, I think as females, we tend to feel like we're doing everything right all day long, and then all of a sudden, 9 o'clock hits, and we are craving the chocolate, we're looking for sweets, or we are just binging the whole pantry or fridge, trying to find anything and everything that we can put in our body. And I have this question come up a lot when I work with clients of, why is this happening? Is this just a habit? What's going on? Like, how do I fix this? And there's a multitude of reasons on why this could be happening. So we're going to cover what some of those reasons could be and what we can kind of do to get started to really understand what is happening, what we can make as changes, so on and so forth. So first thing that I want you to think about is these reasons you may fall into one or all of them. The goal of me sharing some of these reasons is for you to just create awareness in, okay, yes, this is what my diet looks like. No, this is not what my diet looks like. Or if you're listening, you're like, I don't know. I need you to go back to our earlier episode number 3, where I talked about the importance of food logging and why you need to be food logging right away before we even make changes to our diet. So if you've never food logged before, highly recommend going back to that episode. I do food log audits. And I will look at your food and determine, okay, what is working, what isn't working, where is the room for improvement, what are you already crushing? So knowing that, I want you to keep all of that in mind as you listen to these reasonings. So one of the reasons this could be happening is you are under eating throughout your day or low carbohydrate intake. So what this can look like is, for many women, this is a part where you guys tune me out, or we tune out anyone who tells us, oh, I'm under eating. You don't know what you're talking about. As women, we are always trying to follow diets that were made for men and expecting the same result that men have. And what we've always been told is move more, eat less. A lot of times we've been in such a calorie restriction that we are not eating enough. And that is why at the end of our day, our body then is like, give me the sugar, give me the food. Or if you haven't had any carbs throughout the day, or you've had very minimal, the same response happens. And that could be why you are going through your pantry looking for food. The next reason why this could also be happening, which these kind of pair a little hand in hand, is you are eating unbalanced meals. So we've talked about in previous episodes the importance of having proteins, carbs, and fats. Well, it's also important that we are having high quality proteins, fiber-rich carbohydrates, and healthy fats. So did you see what I did there? All I did is I dialed it in a little bit deeper. Our first goal is to just recognize and acknowledge, am I getting protein, carbs, and fats in my day? If we are, and you're still having these cravings, then we need to look at, what type of protein are we going for? Am I getting fiber-rich carbohydrates? And am I getting healthy fats? All of these are super, super important to have throughout our day, not just protein at breakfast, fiber-rich carbs at lunch, and healthy fats at dinner. Like, no, we need them balanced throughout our day for us to be successful and for us to be able to keep our blood sugar levels balanced all day long, rather than this spike and crash, which typically happens. And when we have that, what happens at the end of the day is we have a crash, which then means our body goes looking for sugar. As quickly as we can get it, it wants all of the freaking food. So thinking about that, what do your meals look like? Are you actually balanced throughout your day, or are you unbalanced? You will not know that until you start logging. So this next one is the one that I personally will struggle with the most when my day gets busy. As I can make sure I'm eating enough, I can make sure my meals are balanced, but the one that tends to be my biggest struggle is going too long between meals. So anyone who knows me pretty well in life knows that I can become pretty hangry. And when I say, hey, I'm getting hungry, it's not like, okay, we have an hour or two. It's like we're in a 20-minute window before I become a little nasty and like I'm irritable. I don't want to be around people. Like I know what gaps in my eating throughout the day does to me, not just on a hangry level, but also on an energy level. My energies are low. I'm cranky. I feel like I can't get my words to communicate clearly to anybody. My brain just does not work. Long gaps between meals are going to cause those dips in blood sugar, which is going to increase our stress levels. So, high cortisol levels, which is our stress levels, increase appetites and cravings, especially for hyperpalatable foods like sugar. So, when I have a long gap, what will happen? So, this is what typically happens for me. And this is when I know I need to be proactive and I need to think ahead. So, if I have a long day of meetings and I'm like, I eat breakfast at 6, I have a snack, or I have my lunch at like 10 or 11, but then I know we're waiting till 6 p.m. to have dinner. I need to have a snack in between and a balanced snack, because if not, by the time dinner comes around and we're cooking dinner, what happens is I'm like, give me chocolate, give me something deep fried if we're at a restaurant. It's all about getting something in me because I feel like crap. My energies are low. I feel like I'm going to rip someone's head off. My stress levels are high, all of those things. So, my goal, and everybody's a little bit different, the generalization is we want to make sure we're eating every 3 to 5 hours. Personally, 2 to 4. 4 is pushing it depending on the size of my meal. If I had like a really big breakfast, we went out to brunch, I can go typically 4 hours. But if we had just a lighter breakfast, I'm about every 2 to 3 hours, like closer to that 2-hour mark. And that doesn't mean I'm having big meals every 2 to 3 hours. It means for me is 3 larger meals, having my heavier meals be at the start of the day as best as possible, because I need that energy to get me through the day and to keep my brain and my body going. And then I have little snacks. I have a little morning snack and a little afternoon snack. It's like the same schedule I have with my nanny kids when I'm with them is we have breakfast, we have a morning snack, lunch, afternoon snack, dinner. Little bit depends on what time you eat breakfast, things like that. But I know I like to front load my calories because that's where my body needs them to help keep my body going throughout the day, which then means my dinner is lighter. But by dinner time, I don't really need, I'm not craving or going through the cabinet for those things. So it could be you're just going way too long between meals. I know many people who don't eat breakfast and then they have something about 10 a.m., then they have something at 3, and then they eat at 9, and then they go to bed and they wonder why they're starving and going through the pantry. So, 2 other reasons that this could be. So we talked about going too long in between meals. We talked about blood sugar imbalances from unbalanced meals. And we talked about under eating or low carb intake. So I've got 2 more that I want to cover with you. And the next one is emotional and stress-driven eating. So this is definitely one thing that I think we all have felt at one point in our life, whether it's an emotional drain or we're excited about something or we're sad about something. We let all of those emotions kind of lead us to comfort food of like, oh, I just really want that mac and cheese, or I really want that cheeseburger. I really want that food that makes me feel like so happy on the inside. Stress does the same thing to us. So at the end of your day, if you're noticing that like you've had really balanced meals, you're not restricting yourself, or you're not on low carb, that you feel like you're doing all those right things that we talked about, those first 1 through 3, you've got those dialed in. I want you to ask yourself, are you feeling sad? Are you feeling depleted? Are you feeling lonely? Are you feeling anger? Like, is there an emotion that's coming through that we are using food to essentially like bandage for us? And if we are, we need to acknowledge that emotion. And we can dive into that in another episode. But first, acknowledge, is that the reason? The last reason is poor sleep or sleep deprivation. Lack of sleep alters our hunger regulating hormones. If you have a shitty night's worth of sleep, you are going to more likely be snacky and hungry the next day because our body hasn't had time to regulate itself. So it is super important that we are focusing on our sleep, that we're getting good quality and quantity of sleep. I know that the other thing that comes into play with this, because I'm going to put this here, is if you drink alcohol the night before, that affects our sleep. Well, then what that then does is the alcohol, one, plays into our blood sugar, then it plays into our sleep, and then the next morning we're craving that comfort food because we feel like crap about ourselves. And then our sleep hormone got all messed up. So we don't really know if we're hungry or we're not hungry, and we're just craving all the things. That there's so many factors. And that is typically when I find that sleep is most disrupted in clients. That's not the only reason. Maybe you have a little one and you are being disrupted all the time. But noticing which one of these areas or which multiple of these areas may be causing those binges or cravings, like just starting to notice that. Once you've noticed them, what then we need to do is we need to start making changes. So, how to take back control: eat enough, especially carbs and protein. We do not need to fear carbs. Choose slow digesting, fiber-rich ones like oats, sweet potatoes, beans, fruit. Things like that are super important for our body, and we need to make sure we are consuming them. For protein, it is super important that we consume protein for a multitude of reasons, but when it comes to this specific reasons for those cravings and those binges, it's to help us feel satisfied. Protein helps us feel full and satisfied. We are often under eating protein as women throughout the day. I think that's becoming less common these days with how much protein is being pushed to everyone everywhere. But that also doesn't mean that we only consume protein that is highly processed. We consume high quality proteins, and we're also making sure we are consuming those fiber-rich carbohydrates with it and those healthy fats with it. So in reality, we want to aim for about 100 grams of protein a day. We can dive deep into specifics of all this a different time, but that's like 20 to 30 grams per meal. Depending on what end you're in, will kind of regulate your snacks. If you just take 100 and divide it by 5, it's also another good way to do it. If you have 5 meals, if you only have 3 meals, then divide it by 3. Like, very simple math here. We're not making it complicated. The other way we can do it is a palm-sized serving of protein at every meal and snack. So your palm here, it's also the size of a deck of cards. Super important, like, that we do not forget about that protein. And it's not a protein bar every couple hours. No, like, a protein bar is a supplement. It is a supplement for a reason. We are supplementing the protein bar when we do not have access to high quality protein. So when you can get your hands on Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, chicken, turkey, tuna, canned chicken, eggs, things like that, I want you to have the whole foods. When you can't, we use a supplement. We use protein powder. We use a protein drink. We use a protein bar. I'd rather have you consume a supplement rather than skipping it completely. So eating enough protein and carbs, really, really important. So the next thing you want to make sure you're doing, or I should say not doing, is stop skipping meals. No more skipping meals. No more skipping meals. So as I just mentioned a few minutes ago, is I front load my calories. So when I get up in the morning, I eat a balanced breakfast. I eat breakfast. I truly believe breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And the reason I do this is in the morning, it is important that you are fueling your body for success. And so often as women, we are running on coffee or not enough calories, or we're having a muffin. We are having small things that just are not giving us the energy long term. So what I do, like I said, is I front load those calories. So I have a bigger breakfast. I have a decent sized snack. I've got a little bit smaller lunch. Like, I go from eating the most amount of calories in the morning to the least amount at dinner time, because what that's going to do is it's going to allow me to keep my energy stable and my blood sugar levels stable all day long, instead of, oh, okay, now I've ate very little throughout the day, very little, and then I get to dinner and I've had dinner and now I need all of my calories that I've been saving to what? Sit on the couch and go to bed? No. I would so much rather, and I perform better, and so do my clients, when they actually eat more earlier in the day. when they eat more of their calories and they have those balanced meals earlier in the day. If when we were going through this, you didn't feel like you fell into the first couple of categories, but you really fell into that emotional and that stress-driven area of that is why I binge at night. That is why I grab the sugar, whatever that is. The number one thing that you can do to help support yourself and this is to identify your triggers. Identify the emotion that you are feeling, and then really be honest with yourself and say, write it down, track it, say, I'm feeling very overwhelmed right now. And either acknowledge saying, I'm feeling very overwhelmed right now. I still am going to have some ice cream. Or I'm feeling very overwhelmed right now. Instead of going for the ice cream, like I've created a habit around, instead, I'm going to go for a little walk and see if that helps that feeling. Or I'm going to journal, or I'm going to stretch, or I'm going to call a friend. And then you go and do that action. Then from there, it's important that we are tracking when these are happening. Because if it is the emotional feeling or that stress, most likely those cravings and those binges are not happening only at the end of the night like some of these other things. They are happening probably midday or mid-afternoon when life gets a little bit hectic and out of control. So start to note this. Write down the day, the time, the emotion. What did you do? What worked? What didn't work? And I know that seems like a lot. You can just use the notes on your phone. It doesn't have to be anything super complicated. Start small and build on it. The last thing I want you to remember is don't restrict. Allow for treats on purpose earlier in your day. So one of the things that is so frustrating is when you see people cut out sugar, cut out carbs, cut out the things they love in life. And essentially, it's like when you're growing up and your parents tell you, no, you can't do that, you're going to go ahead and do it. Like as soon as you're told you can't do something or you can't have something, like you are going to want to do it and you are going to do it. So with that, it's important that if we say, I want to limit my sugar intake, but like I really enjoy one of those mini Reese's, add a mini Reese's with lunch. If you don't want it at lunchtime, that's okay. You don't have to eat it then, but plan it into your meals or plan it into a meal throughout your day. So you're giving yourself permission to say, I'm going to enjoy this right now. Or, I'm actually not feeling that right now, but I'm glad I had that as an option in case I had a sweet tooth at the end or in case I wanted that little bit of something. Like add it into your diet. Do not restrict it, because the more we look at it as forbidden fruit, the more likely we are to hide that we are doing it, overindulge on it, and create a bad relationship with it. So we talked about how it's important to balance all of our plates, how to identify our triggers, especially if emotion and stress is the reason that we are binging at the end of the night. But also it's important that we eat enough carbs and protein and we do not skip meals. So there's so many factors that come into play. And as I mentioned, if you are somebody who's like, I don't even know what the hell is going on, I need you to start food logging. Food log for 1 week. Send it to me. Let's look at it together, because we tend to have a harder time seeing it for ourselves than we do when somebody kind of points it out. And when we look at it, I'll show you the things you're doing well, the things that could use a little improvement. And then we're going to maybe be able to see some of these patterns. If you are food logging for these cravings and binges specifically, things that are really helpful for me is you can use an app. But one of the other things is, as I mentioned, it's the length of time in between meals. So you can either use an app. I like MyFitnessPal only because you can add me as a friend to your diary. But if you don't pay for it, then you can't see the timestamp. So at that point, you can just send me a message and say, I typically eat at this time, and this time throughout the day, so on and so forth. The more detail you can give me, the type of food, the quantity of food, when you're eating, things like that, the easier it's going to be for me to help see some of those gaps, some of those areas that you're doing really well, where you could use a little bit more support, so on and so forth. So to recap, it is totally normal to have these cravings or these binges when we are unsure of what is happening in our nutrition. And so often we don't know what's happening. We are just kind of rolling with the punches. We are trying to just fuel as best as we can to get through the day. We don't know, is it emotional? Is it stress? Is it just flipping life in general? So one of the things that I want you to remember is it is okay to have these. What is not okay is to not take control of them. And that is the one thing I do want you to do today, is I want you to, if you are that person who does have those cravings and those binges, I want you to acknowledge which one of those 5 areas, one or more, depending on what stage of life you're in, there may be more. Which one or more of those areas do you fall into? And how are you going to take back control of your nutrition so that you are no longer falling victim to your cravings and those binges? So like I said, I would do a food audit for you. All you've got to do is track your food. The more detail, the better. Send me an email with it or add me as a friend on MyFitnessPal. Just send me an email. I'm happy to send you a YouTube video on how to set that up. And I want to look over your nutrition. I want to be able to help you. I want to tell you what you're doing great, where you could use a little bit of support to help you be in control. So with that, make sure to take some time to check out our free Facebook group, jump in there, call your shot, share your biggest takeaway from today. And if there's somebody else in your life that you're like, I know they struggle with this as well, share this episode with them. That is the best way for you to thank me, is by sharing this episode with others in your life that you think would benefit. So until next time, I will see you all then. Thank you for tuning in to the EmpowerHer Wellness podcast. I hope you found today's episode inspiring and packed with actionable tips. Remember, your journey to becoming the strongest, most confident version of yourself is just beginning. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode and join our community of empowered women. Until next time, stay strong and stay confident.